Welcome, everyone. This series of webinars is a Impact webinars hosted by the ServiceNow Impact teams. This webinar in particular is focused on ServiceNow's governance framework, how Impact is engaged and leverageable when we speak about governance, and the keys to success from the ServiceNow's perspective when it comes to governance. This is an incredibly impactful area of a practice, and we just wanted to make sure that we, produced content that gave, our impact customers some overviews and some guidance about the best practices when it comes to setting up a governance practice for your ServiceNow instances. So let's go and get started. If you have any questions during the course of this webinar, please put that into the Q&A section within the Zoom within the Zoom application, and we're going to go ahead and kind of look at those throughout the webinar, but also we will have a Q&A session about 45 minutes in, so that hopefully we can get those questions answered, and if we can't, we'll log them and we will publish additional information as we publish out the webinar content. So moving on to our content, we put a safe harbor notice in. Ultimately, we're not going to talk about roadmap or product related information here, but just in case, safe harbor's in effect. Keeping track of all of the different webinars associated with not only, your Impact product suite, but also, just overall, we publish a lot of material. So gaining, visibility into those published materials, here's a good starting spot. And moving on, again, QA's at the end. We will keep an eye, on the Q&A questions. We are, obviously, you've got the recording notice. We're recording this session. It'll be published to the ServiceNow community, and you will get a survey. So if you can actually complete that survey, that will go a long way towards the next set of content that we would be providing to you. And any feedback is welcome. All right, today, my name is Denise. I'm Denise Caldwell. I'm a success architect. I work with ServiceNow. I've been with ServiceNow for several years and in the technology space for a lot of time. And I am really happy to do this webinar because honestly, this is probably one of the areas where I think you get it right and nobody notices, and you get it wrong and everybody notices. So hopefully we'll be able to help guide you towards your governance journey. And joining me is Rogério. Rogério, you want to do a quick intro?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Rogério. I'm a Brazilian living in Omaha, Nebraska. I've worked all my career, 32 years, in technology, 15 of them on software engineering roles, up to director of software engineering and architecture, and the past 17 years, including this one, on customer-facing roles, so helping customers to be successful. And I've been with ServiceNow also for several years. I'll be speaking and sharing my video later on during today.
Thanks, Rogério. All right, so how this webinar is going to work. My part of the program here, we're going to talk about how ServiceNow defines governance and why we feel that investment in a governance practice is critical to all of our customers' success. We'll review the types of ServiceNow governance, and then Rogério will start with the steps that we follow when we establish a governance practice, when we consult and advise with customers. That's the value of our success organization, is that we engage in ensuring that our customers are reaching their goals, their objectives, and getting value from the platform in a measurable fashion. That's honestly the focus of Impact overall, is to get customers to value quicker and be able to preserve their investment. And then we're going to wrap up and do a Q&A session. So let's get started with the content here. All right, so let's talk about what governance is in our mindset, our lexicon. So governance is the decision-making framework that accelerates outcomes. You define what the decisions are that need to be made, who is involved in that decision-making, and the process of getting those decisions made. And that encompasses every area of the practice. And every one of our customers comes to us kind of from a different mindset when it comes to governance. So what we really try to do is ensure that when we speak about governance, we're talking about a decision framework. We want to enable at all layers the right decision makers with the right information so that our customers can move with speed towards their goals. All of our customers made a decision to invest in the ServiceNow platform. Impact customers especially have invested not only in the platform itself, but in a product suite that gives them visibility into their investment, gives them additional tools to realize value from that investment, and additional sets of resources that they can leverage wherever they are on their journey. If you're brand new to the ServiceNow ecosystem and you haven't, you're maybe transitioning from another technology suite into ServiceNow, or you've been on ServiceNow for a while and you're not sure you're getting the most value out of the product suite, governance and the impact, kind of the impact position of governance is critical to every one of those customers. So why do we invest, and why do we really stress that that our customers should invest in governance, right? Aligning with your transformation, aligning with your vision, aligning with your business objectives. Governance and that area of the practice drives all of the decision making, right? So you want to align your investments in sequence to support your strategy. Well, if your strategy is not well defined, that's part of your governance practice. If you're unsure about sequencing, that's, you can get those decisions made during your governance practice, or as you develop your governance processes. The big questions to ask in those decision-making frameworks is, are we doing the right work? Are we doing it at the right time? And do my people have the ability to make the right decisions at their level? Are they empowered with enough information to get those decisions made whatever person within the practice we're talking about, whether it's your CIO and they're the champion of your ServiceNow instance, the platform owner, the director of operations, or the director of development, or somebody who's a critical stakeholder in your business. Those decisions throughout the governance practice have to have the input from all those different players. How do we do that? And probably the most kind of immediately noticeable negative impact of not having governance comes to this third point, right? Maintain the integrity of your ServiceNow implementation by defining and applying technical best practices. The technical best practices portion of governance is a whole big discussion all by itself. It has many domains. You have to really, really in-depth analyze, kind of how this is going to work. We're going to skim over the top of it. But that's the first area where you'll notice negative impact if the technical practices are not being adhered to. So let's talk about why, right? We want to, what governance is, and you've invested in ServiceNow, and we want to talk about why it is that governance is so critical. All of these different areas probably resonate with some of you, right? Everybody has been in meetings where we have to go backwards to understand where we are. We're not quite sure where we are on our roadmap. How does this align with our strategy? Why aren't the right people showing up to meetings? What's the scope of the implementation? What's the communication that's going on? people are frustrated or they're not quite sure what we're doing with ServiceNow. What is this thing? Or when you get down to the data practices, right? You've got an end user that wants reports out of ServiceNow, but they're not quite sure what that reporting needs to look like, right? All of these outstanding questions, ultimately, we roll into our decision-making framework. We ultimately, we get to the point where this whole cycle of questions and unknowns and lack of communication and lack of coordination, we absolutely have seen our customers mature their practice and their governance so that those questions don't show up anymore. You can streamline the governance practice so that you're proactively managing those expectations and enabling your development teams and your operation teams to do their jobs and know that they're doing the right thing at the right time. In the ServiceNow, when we're looking at our customers' maturity and where they are with their transformation, we put this slide in here because everybody's at a different spot, right? You may have a very strong governance practice for your enterprise applications. If your ServiceNow instance is a brand new instance to your enterprise, you need to kind of figure out where that fits, where it fits with your enterprise architecture governance. If that's not a standardized practice within your enterprise or within your technology team's kind of mode of operations, you're a little bit more reactionary, or you've got everything in your little group. It doesn't really go outside, and that type of thing. We look at this as the crawl, walk, run, fly stages, right? And we're not going to belabor this point, but when we get to intuitively understanding how to deliver, that is a fly. And I will tell you that I don't have a lot of customers that are flying, right? Governance is a very complicated practice, and you just end up getting more and more people and business stakeholders incorporated into that model, and there's a lot of times some constant change going on, right? Our customers are transforming at speed. They come to ServiceNow, you come to ServiceNow to be able to realize agility within your enterprise, to have one place to understand how work is getting done. And it's really not a one and done type of thing. And that's honestly why I wanted to bring this slide up, is because governance in practice is a constantly maturing and questioning kind of process. You want to make sure that people are engaged, the right people are engaged, they're doing the right things all the time. So we have to keep learning and figuring out where we are with this maturity of our practice. And then on to how we define governance. There's layers to everything, right? Ultimately, there are layers to governance also. And when we talk about governance at ServiceNow, we look at three different big chunks, right? Strategic governance. This is your decision makers at the executive level with ownership and facilitation through your ServiceNow practice team. But that is the group that defines your strategy, your roadmap, the decisions around how those business outcomes, whether they're increase agility, get to a smaller, more effective suite of applications across our enterprise portfolio, get more efficient automation in our practices for development and operations, all of those strategic goals and business outcomes, those are really defined at the strategic governance layer. Then we talk about mission critical technical governance. This starts at the very beginning. It gets stronger, and it never loses traction, because at this point, this is every decision around the new, the best, the better way to leverage new capabilities, functionality, implementation, sequencing. It governs the stability and the value of the platform. Portfolio governance, or demand governance, you'll hear it referenced as demand governance, is how you make everything work in your timeline and according to your priorities, according to your resources, according to your budget, right? Are you doing the right things with the right people? Do you have the right resources? Does everybody know why it is that we have to deploy in a certain sequence, and are all the stakeholders engaged? So those are the three types of governance that we will, that are kind of the foundational activities across the transformation of our customers. We have three primary steps that we kind of put how you would establish governance into your framework. And I'm going to hand off to Rogerio, and he's going to start walking through kind of the steps that we would follow as you develop your governance practice.
Thank you, Denise. Denise, please confirm to me you can see my screen.
Yes, three best practice steps for establishing governance.
Okay, thank you. So again, good morning, everybody. Nice being with you, talking about how we can help you. First, ServiceNow Governance can help you achieving value, and second, how Impact will help you getting there, okay? The three best practice steps to establish governance we recommend are first to prepare to set up your ServiceNow governance. We are going to each of them, okay? Then you're going to focus on defining and implementing your governance process. Not coincidentally, this is the larger part. First you prepare, then you define, implement over several phases, several cycles, and you need to continuously improve your governance. Every process to get to the optimal level needs to be continuously monitored and evolved, right? So let's start talking about the step one. The very first thing that you need when thinking about setting up your ServiceNow governance is to designate someone to design and implement your governance approach. We've found that the best position person or role to define the scope and goals, to create a plan, to identify the stakeholders, is the platform owner, okay? When we get with you, of course, we'll review that. That may be not your case, but in general, this is the best recommended role. So this is a practitioner's insight to share with you. The very first and main step that you should have after assigning someone to design your governance and to coordinate the implementation of the governance at your organization are to build a project plan for how you implement ServiceNow governance. Not a detailed project plan, but the major timelines about what you are going to do. To gain executive sponsorship for governance. As every major initiative, executive sponsorship makes a lot of difference. And without this, you may just be trying to push up the initiative without having a support, and then with the best intention, not being so much successful. And also to engage stakeholders, people from other areas, from other governance functions on your corporation that would engage on the governance talks and implementation, okay? So this platform owner or the person assigned to design a governance program would define the scope, the directions, and goals. It's important to talk about goals. Later on, Denise will talk about how to continuously monitor and verify the metrics that are based on the goals, okay? Plan on how to set up your governance and identify the needs, who needs to be involved. How can we help you to get prepared on your journey to set up the ServiceNow governance, okay? We listed here some materials, such as the Impact Accelerators, specific for Vancouver release, and the ServiceNow Governance Workbook. They are two of the first ones that maybe you would want to check on them later on, okay? For those of you that are already either Impact Total or Impact Advanced customers, you can reach out to the Impact Squad. Denise and I, we are success architects. There are other roles in there. And usually the success architects and the platform architects, we have the customer-facing relationship during the governance, and also during other correlated initiatives, such as we can work with championing your sponsor, we can work on vision and strategy, we can work on so many others that I guess many of you already know are already using that. Maybe you are just thinking about how to use governance. So we can talk to you if you are already a total and advanced customer, okay? You don't know where we are on your governance maturity. If you are one of the total customers, just a specific comment to you, okay? There's a governance maturity assessment tool as part of your Impact Accelerator. So make sure to reach out to your Impact Squad to put that in place, okay? And focus on value during your preparation, okay? Prepare to measure how well your governance processes are working, okay? And capture key metrics and plan on reviewing your processes periodically. That's essential for the success of the governance journey at the organization. Once you've worked on setting up your ServiceNow governance, go to defining and implementing your governance process. We'll spend a considerable time on that. Starting by, this is to the left of your screen, you'll see some of the questions that are very typical on a ServiceNow implementation, right? Such as, what modules do we implement? How do we do upgrades? Can we change the services we deliver? How do we secure data? When should we customize? All these questions, they come from different stakeholders at different moments, okay? And they are related to different topics that we categorize in 3 types: strategic, technical, and demand, okay? The point of governance is to bring structure to clarify these questions, okay? And we recommend these 3 boards that would take care of the different nature of questions. The executive steering board with senior IT and business leaders will address the strategic questions, and we'll decide on strategic vision, we'll decide on budget and resources, and make the final decisions on the roadmap, the ServiceNow roadmap. The demand board, composed by platform and process owners, will address portfolio questions, demand questions, decide on how to scope work, how to create an implementation sequence that aligns with the vision and strategy decided by the executive steering board. And the technical governance board, composed by IT leaders, technical architects, and others, will address technical questions and will set standards and guardrails for the development and the maintenance on the Now platform. And that will minimize technical risk and technical debt, okay? It's very important that these 3 boards, they work in conjunction, okay? They must have independence, but they also may work cohesively. They can't work just in silos. And that's why you see some bidirectional arrows there, showing that there must exist intercooperation between the boards. We don't want overlaps, but we want exchange of information so that every decision, if it is impacting the other part of the decision-making process, it's consider all the aspects. For example, if you are talking about the executive steering board and they are talking about the upgrades that are coming ahead and the priority of them, that decision should come down to the demand board, which would work on the implementation 6 related to that, which, by the way, in turn, would send that information also to the technical governance board to work on the platform management of that upgrade. So if the decisions to flow between the boards, okay? Talking about the executive steering board, composed by senior IT and business leaders, addressing strategic questions. This group will decide on the vision for ServiceNow, will oversee the budget and the resources, and will make the strategic and roadmap decisions, okay? First of all, recruit your executive sponsor to chair this executive steering board. On the second column, members there, we are suggesting the executive sponsor to be the executive steering board, okay? Nobody less than executive sponsor. We've seen many cases in which this is delegated, but it's the start of the not best practice, okay? Level up the level of involvement of their leaders so that you have the authority, the hierarchy that comes with that role, okay? So that first, you have more conditions to provide guidance to the teams. And second, you have more penetration on the other leaders to bring them on board, to keep them motivated to keep working on the governance-related topics. Second, set a charter for your executive steering board, as you see on the first column to your left, okay? To drive success of the ServiceNow program by aligning and prioritizing investment with business goals. The charter will also encompass the monitor and direct programs to protect benefits. And this board will be accountable for the ServiceNow program projects and roadmap. Next, work with your executive sponsor, the leader, to recruit other stakeholders. We've listed some of them there on the members column. Business unit executives, platform owners, CIO, key partners, OCM leader. Of course, this is just an example. The right setup would depend on your maturity, your size, and other variables, and we can help defining that along with you on case by case, okay? You then define the decisions and responsibilities that need to be managed by the executive team board. Some important decisions. Does the current ServiceNow roadmap align with business objectives? How will we revisit and update the ServiceNow vision and roadmap over time? Do we have the right partners and partner management in place? Those are very important questions. Also, those that we listed in the chart for in the slide for reference, okay? After that, set a cadence for the executive steering board meetings. We suggest that you meet at least once a quarter. SPIN executives and business unit executives, you don't have much time from them, so you want them to be very effective. That's why you should plan on how to support your executive steering board. You should bring some inputs. You should have a typical agenda for the meeting. You should predefine the dynamics of the meetings, and you should also predefine how to capture the outcomes, such as the aligned roadmap, the release schedule approvals, and so on. A practitioner insight, okay? Ensure that the strategy governance decisions are captured first and then cascaded properly so that they don't get lost, okay? Moving to demand board, remember that this is a group that decides how to scope work and how to create creates the implementation sequence that aligns with the vision set up by the executive steering board, okay? First, recruit the leader. We suggest the demand manager if you have that involved. If not, the platform owner, okay? Second, set a charter. As we did for the executive steering board, set a charter also for your demand board. This board should assess the platform demand against your strategic roadmap and guiding principles to make sure that the demands that have the best fit usage on the platform, and should assess the effort estimation design options in order to approve just the viable demands. When you have a good scale of ServiceNow at your organization, it's natural with all the facilities that you have to do low code, no code, the configuration without customization. It's natural that there will be a lot of demands, and it's natural that there will be a bottleneck. You don't have throughput to do all that is requested or desired at some time. That's the main role of the demand board. The main board will tell the company which are the criteria to prioritize the demands ones against the others, right? That will be based on effort estimation, on risk, on also analysis from the design review committee that you involved at the right time. After you have the charter, you recruit other members, such as the platform architect, the process owner, business domain representatives, program manager, service owners, business analysts, and data owner. Very important, talking about the main board. And you have other optional guests, such as the product owner, the ServiceNow Success Architect, my role, and ServiceNow Platform Architect. Then you define what decisions and responsibilities need to be managed. Some I just mentioned. So how do we determine the prioritization criteria for demands, for new capabilities, for functionalities, configuration, for customization? How do we use this criteria to govern demand intake? And how would we delegate approvals for low-risk changes? In some cases, you can just say, okay, based on these, if it is low risk, and so categorize what is low risk, you can just move forward. That's totally up to the rules that this demand board will set up for your organization. Set up a cadence for these demand board meetings. We suggest at least one large meeting per quarter, if your organization is already large enough on ServiceNow usage, right? And smaller, maybe daily, maybe weekly meetings to follow up on the day-by-day demands. And plan how to support your demand board. Bring an agenda, bring some common inputs, such as the project plans, the list of demands, the vision roadmap, because it's also a very important input to guide the decisions, right? And capture the outcomes, the decisions on all the demands and associated common components, the customization assessment required by the design and review boards. So you need to have all that in place with these members working, so that all the other people working at the organization with ServiceNow will know what to do with regards to demand management, okay? And then moving to technical governance board. Usually it's more tangible, right? But the others are so important as this one. If you, by chance, start by the technical governance, there is nothing wrong with that. But you should not end or stop just with the technical governance board. This group will set the standards and guardrails for development on the Now platform. And this will minimize technical risk and technical debt, okay? Similar to the others, you should recruit a chair. We recommend that it's your platform architect, if not the platform owner. Set a charter, which will be encompass like being the decision body and gatekeeper on platform-related aspects, to assess technical and design options and approaches, and assess the development standards, best fit users, the UI standards, the data governance strategy. They are among the tools used by this group. Work with your share to recruit the other members of the group, those that are listed on the column in there, okay? Define what decisions and responsibilities need to be managed by this team. For example, how should we manage the technical aspects of implementation upgrades? What technical standards should we adhere to for engineering, for development, for integration? How to maintain the design technical debt register? So all those questions should be addressed by the technical governance board, okay, in terms of responsibilities. Then you should set up a cadence for this group. We suggest weekly or monthly. Of course, that will depend case by case. And plan on how to support this team by common inputs such as the ServiceNow performance dashboard reports, the reports from Health Scan and Instance Security Center, the list of demands needing technical design review, and a typical agenda. And finally, capturing the outcomes so that they are registered for the group for next meetings, but also cascaded to the other groups, the decisions that created some new policies, some new standards. The technical governance is so, let's say, wide that we focus that in 4 domains: environment management, data management, platform, and development management, okay? The environment management takes care of the architecture processes needed to establish the appropriate environment for organization. It will encompass instance management, instance structure, cloning, and application management. Very important. You need to have a good criteria to how to maintain your instance, who will access your instances, all of that. In terms of data management, I think this goes without saying, right, that this is highly relevant. You need to set the foundational standards and controls, you need to maintain high quality data so that it's reliable for other to use it. And so that you have at the end a good CMDB data quality and tables in general, okay? Platform management, you define the activity and processes needed to maintain the current configuration of the platform. It will encompass upgrade management, the platform integrity, the performance maintenance and administration, and the groups management. All of them are very important. And the development management will set the processes and the foundation standards to support the development configuration of high-quality applications. So we will encompass development standards, integration development standards and best practices, customizations requirements, configuration guidelines. And so on these 4 domains, you have people taking decisions with regards to these 4 domains and creating standards and policies with regards to the 4 areas as well. The 3 boards that we talked about, they need to work in conjunction, as I mentioned. But also, we suggest that you map this visually. You map the boards, you map the main interactions, and you can start with this map that I'm sharing with you. Usually, we suggest just those 3 color boxes. But on purpose, we've added also the development and platform operations box in there, because it's a reality that you have more boards talking and in charge of governance-related functions. So you need to map the interactions between the executive team board, the demand board, the technical governance board, and other boards, such as an architecture review board, a development platform operations board. With that, people will better understand what's expected from them and what they need to exchange information with other teams and when. Not only you can work on formal policy and standards, but especially at the beginning of your governance journey, you could start with golden rules, also called guiding principles. They are a fast way to provide a North Star for how decisions should be made. They do not replace the formal standards and policies. They are simple, clear statements that help to ensure that the governance decisions and activities are coordinated at each level. Let's talk about 3 examples. The first, we will always be on the latest ServiceNow version within X months of release using automated testing and rapid deployment. You can see it doesn't have the structure of a policy, but it's already very clear. Latest ServiceNow release within X months of release using ATF. It's a very good North Star. Meanwhile, you don't get to the full robustness of a policy or a standard. Another one, we'll design and build using out-of-the-box functionality. We'll customize only when there is a clear business need and no alternative. Again, it's not so final. What's a clear business need? Doesn't say, but it's very clear that we don't want to customize unless extremely needed. And usually we would like to do out of the box. Also, integrations will be limited to those that deliver value. Bespoke build should be a last option to apply. Again, a very tangible, effective way to use golden rules. So we recommend you start with that. Meanwhile, you don't get to the full maturity of the standards and policies. And there will be times that the groups can't decide on how to move forward by themselves. You should have an escalation path that acts like an intake model with multiple gates. Okay, we recommend mapping this visually, starting with this map that we are sharing now, and modifying as per your needs. So your teams will get to the front line, the platform implementation team member or the service owner or the process owner with basic questions. Not resolved, go to the platform leader in the role of the platform owner. Not resolved, go to the board chair, executive sponsor or the demand manager or the platform architect, and not resolved, go to the full board. This structure is faster and less burdensome because it enables some decision-making without the full board. Okay, you don't want to involve the full board for every decision. If you are doing that, the governance isn't working. So map it visually, adapt, and put it in place with this intake model with multiple gates. Okay. With that, I'll hand it over back to Denise. She'll talk about how to continuously improve governance and continue from there.
All right. Thank you, Rogerio. I appreciate that. So continuous improvement, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because it's self-explanatory, honestly, and we are running a little high on our minute count here. But the concepts I really want to ensure that we cover is that you want to capture metrics. You want to prove out that the actual activity of governance has value. How are you going to measure that? Well, every layer of governance is going to have different KPIs that you want to measure. Participation. How many decisions are actually going to that board for review? What's the throughput there? Demand will have, or portfolio governance will have a lot more, right? You're going to have, ideation that you have to manage, you have backlog you have to manage, you have to, that's a much more familiar cadence of, what are we going to do? When are we going to do it? And somebody wants some more work done. Where does it fit? Right. Those are the type of KPIs, and some things are going to be subjective. You're going to want to know whether or not your end users are really, they feel like these boards are valuable. Do they come to the strategy or the steering committee and not know what's going on? What's our communication problem there if that's the case? We don't engage leadership within our enterprises in these activities if there's not value being proven out. Are we really removing bottlenecks and empowering the people that are supposed to do the work on the platform with the right tools, and making sure that those folks can get their answers as quickly as possible so that the throughput overall is not, putting weight on your practice, but is instead facilitating speed. And that's really kind of where the KPIs come in. Are we making things harder? Or are we making things easier? As we wrap up here, the part that we want to stress is that no matter what, for all of our customers, governance is a very critical factor in their success. As you leverage impact, you gain visibility through the Impact digital experience into the health of your platform, what's going on, how the roadmap fits, what your capabilities are, what resources are available. As you advance through the tiers of impact with advanced and total, the differentiator is really the value being driven by the platform, measurable, and the teams within the ServiceNow, success organization that help facilitate that. We're helping your team advance and mature your practice. So that's, we're leveraging, key workbooks, and, governance doesn't really change, but the difference when it comes to impact is that you have these curated tools that allow you to sequence these things. And if you're not familiar with the way that we would manage governance, we put tools in your hands or help advise you on how to measure and look at your platforms and look at your teams and look at your processes to determine whether or not they're going to work according to our recommended leading practices. We've analyzed thousands of customers and the way that they manage their platform and how their teams are structured and who does things well and who had to change the way that they did things in order to get the most value from our platform. So that's the part of this whole, curated impact, our experience, so that you have visibility, but also kind of all of the different pieces to it to ensure that whether you're a new customer or a customer that has been on the platform for 12 years, you've got kind of a framework and you can come in at any point to leverage materials that we've analyzed, and produced to help our customers either onboard a new capability. You're strong in service management, but you're going into the HR realm, or you're going into legal, or you're going into field service management, or whatever it is. All of those new things that our platform has now become like the standard of, the industry standard for several of those, all-encompassing workflows. As we look at that, your governance and your demand practice and what business users are going to be brought in, that all changes. So we're looking at trying to use the impact kind of the tools that are in hand to meet our customers where they are, define where they want to go, and then put tools in their hands to help facilitate that. So again, let's just going back through what the content was we shared. What it is, it's a framework. Make the right decisions at the right time with the right people and facilitate speed to value. Why do we invest? And why do we invest in these sessions? You want to make sure that you're getting the most value out of the platform at every point, right? And when you're not quickly able to close those gaps and figure out why it is that you're just not seeing the efficiencies or the value or whatever goals that you've set as your goals, you're not seeing it, you can't measure it, you can't report on it, and you can't communicate it up to your execs. Get the right work done at the right time, see how your customers really think you're doing, and foundationally, maintain the integrity of your platform. Make sure that you are upgradable, that you are not increasing technical debt, that you're refining your application portfolio across your enterprise, all of those goals. So hopefully we got those conversations started in your head, and you've got some materials that you can leverage, and there's much more out there. Those workbooks that we linked to, they're big. There's a lot in there. If you're looking just for technical governance guidance, there's a great framework there. Going past that point is, leveraging kind of the curated impact experience. And with the impact squad engagements, that's the trusted advisors, right? We've been there, we've done that, we've seen it work, and we've seen it not work. So hopefully those resources, you can help use your accelerators, you can help use the impact resources to kind of make a little more sense of the chaos. Impact community, technical training and certification, expert services, there's additional resources that become available to impact customers. If you're not familiar with impact, I would look at our product first and start looking at kind of what impact means. There's different layers to it. It also comes with, access to additional support resources and such. So this isn't really an impact overview, but I would definitely look at the community and the overview of that whole product suite if you're not familiar with it. It's very much been put in place to guide customers, no matter where they are on their journey, and give them content in one place so that you don't have to look all over the place, because that kind of used to be the way. But now we're working very hard to get everything into like easily consumable and referenceable places. And that's it. That's our deck for today. And it looks like our questions are answered. So I think we are done with our webinar, and I really, really appreciate everybody's participation. So glad to see everybody from all around the world participating in this. And I will tell you that this is my thing. You do this well, like I said at the beginning, hardly anybody notices. And then if you do it poorly, everybody notices. So take some time and figure out what your strategy is for enabling governance. And the community is always there if you need any help.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.